I'm excited to introduce our keynote speaker. But before I do, I would like to mention one thing, since we're here at the NASDAQ and NASDAQ is such a great partner. The NASDAQ has done an amazing job in promoting diversity and has recently implemented policies and recommendations to the NASDAQ's 3,200 member companies to have more representation of women and minorities on their boards. And we'd like to propose, actually, my business partner, Tim Tyson, who's the CEO of TriRx, sent me a note, and we've been talking about this for a while. We'd love to see veterans representation on every board. I think it would help to give education and exposure to the rest of the board members of the military and veterans and all the issues that have been discussed here. And it would also just give visibility to veterans issues throughout all of these companies. So we'd love it if NASDAQ would consider that, and really if the member companies would submit to NASDAQ to ask for that. I think it would really help veterans issues. Our next speaker is General Dennis Reimer, and General Dennis Reimer has led an amazing life, and he's an amazing soldier, scholar, leader. He attended West Point and graduated in 1962. His graduation speech was given by John F. Kennedy, and a month before that, he was witness to General MacArthur's famous Duty Honor Country speech. General Reimer entered the Army as a second lieutenant, rose to 4-star general, commanded at every level, served twice in Vietnam, received the Purple Heart Combat Infantry Badge, which is rare for a field artillery officer, right, sir? And he eventually was the 33rd Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army. He led the U.S. Army. And he led the U.S. Army at a critical time in history, right after the fall of the superpower of the Soviet Union. And the world went into what is now called VUCA. And General Reimer led us through that. And I'd like to introduce General Dennis Reimer, sir.
Thank you very much, Dan, for that kind introduction. You set the bar pretty high. I'll try not to screw it up too badly. I first of all would say I really enjoyed this whole program. It's a great program, particularly the panel and the things you talked about. I monitored all of it. I saw the Soup's talk on leadership in the panel. I would just suggest to us that if we stop here and don't do anything, we are terribly wrong. This can't be a once-a-year affair. There's some great ideas thrown out there. There's some challenges that we all know about. We need to marry up the challenges with the solutions and get something going here. I like your idea of having a veteran on every board. I think that's helpful. And so I hope that we will continue to go on and make something out of this and make it really good. My congratulations to the companies that have been involved here, Thayer Leadership, NASDAQ, Chief Executive Group. Great program. I particularly want to single out those behind the scenes who made this thing work. For someone that has a hard time turning over a computer, this is amazing. This is a miracle, and it's gone so very well. And so thank you very much for all you've done. I want to give a special shout out to all the veterans out there in Zoom land or wherever they may be. If you can hear my voice or you can see our pictures, then you're the people we want to talk to. And I want to just say, happy Veterans Day. You are the heroes of this country, and that's all of you. The Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, put out a paper in terms of a message to the veterans, and he said that we honor you today, but we will remember you always. And I think that's a challenge for all of us. This can't be a one-day affair each year. We have to remember the veterans every day of the year, and I hope that we can do that. I'm particularly honored to share a few thoughts with you concerning finding a purpose and leaving a legacy. I think that is really important. And I have been fortunate in my life and my professional career in the Army to have the opportunity to work with some great leaders, both for me and those I worked for. And I've learned a lot from them. I would like to talk about each and every one of them, but the time does not allow. But I have singled out 3 of them that I would like to talk about in terms of the purpose and legacy issue. And I will highlight some of the things that they left us with and challenge all of us to kind of live up to the example that they have set. I think most of you will know of them, and when we get to that, I think we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. My own journey as a veteran began in 1958. I entered the United States Military Academy of the class of 1962. I came from a small town in Oklahoma. I have no military background. No one in my family has ever served in the military. And I guess there's good news and bad news about that. The good news is that the Army didn't have to tear me down to build me over again. The bad news is that they inherited a pretty tough construction project, and my 5 years of commitment turned into 30 years of lots of opportunities, great opportunities, and innumerable priceless memories. Washington Hall is the cadet dining facility, and during my day, it was handling 2,400 cadets 3 times a day. A big facility, and when you went in there for a meal, you're in and out. We were able to get people in and out in less than 30 minutes. And it was a beehive of activity. It was noisy. There were waiters coming out of the kitchen and distributing the food throughout the dining facility. There were people shouting at other people, and it was just one of those really noisy places. 12 May 1962 was not a typical day at Washington Hall. General Douglas MacArthur came to visit. All of us knew of him, and we were all anxious to hear what he had to say, especially those of us who were going out in the Army in less than 30 days. And we wanted to know what he thought about our purpose, what he thought about our profession, and what he thought about the soldiers that we were going to lead. MacArthur did not disappoint. In a loud, clear voice, he told us that your mission is fixed, determined, inviolable. It is to win the nation's wars. That was our purpose. And he went on to say, your profession of arms. He talked about the profession of arms, said, yours is a profession of arms, the will to win, the sure knowledge that in war there is no substitute for victory, that if you lose, the nation will be destroyed. He also shared with us his opinion of the soldiers that we would be leading. He said, I regarded them then as I regard them now, as one of the world's noblest figures, not only as one of the finest military characters, but as one of the most stainless. Their names and fame are the birthright of every American citizen. In their youth and strength, their love and loyalty, they gave all that mortality could give. When MacArthur was talking, you could have heard a pin drop in Washington Hall. When he finished, there wasn't a dry eye. For me, that was very much a defining moment in my professional career. I realized now, or realized then, that I had a lot to do and I had a lot to learn, and I had to get my A game together. And so that's what I left with the understanding of that. MacArthur, like all leaders, has had faults. He had faults. Communications was not on that list. Michael Powell, in his eulogy for his father, General Colin Powell, which he gave a week from Friday at the Washington National Cathedral, said that the most infrequent questions he is asked about his father is, are they still making his kind anymore? That's a good question. It's a fair question. And the answer is a little bit confusing, but I would just simply say that General Powell was remarkable. He was a remarkable leader. His service was exemplary, and he was widely respected by all of those who served with him. Let me just share a short story with you in terms of my personal experience with him. I was a commander at Fort Carson, Colorado, and he was the Force Com commander at Fort McPherson, Georgia, which meant that he was 2 levels up above me. He called one afternoon and he said, I wanted to go to Canada, but I can't get there because of weather. Can I come visit Fort Carson? And I said, absolutely, we'd love to have you. Who was going to turn a 4-star down if he wanted to come to visit you? So he came, And it was late in the afternoon when he called, so we didn't have a chance to really get things together that well. But we took him out to dinner that night, and he sat around the table with all of the principal commanders at Fort Carson, and he shared his experience as the national security advisor for President Reagan. He talked about his experience in the Vietnam War. He talked about what it was like being a Black leader, being stationed in the South. And he shared with us his techniques and some of the things that had worked for him. The next day, we took him out and he visited troops. And the thing that was remarkable about that is that here was this four-star general, very talented. Everybody knew he was going a long ways. And he was able to identify with the youngest privates that we had out there at the training. The relationship that he established with them, he made them feel important by the question he asked. He made them feel like they knew that he was treating them with dignity and respect. And after that, he took a trip over to see the Northcom commander, and they had a conference together. And then finally, he said, I want to go see my friends. And so we took him to see his civilian friends in Colorado Springs. What I took out of that was that the mentorship that he provided, the example he provided us in terms of mentorship, talking about experiences, not bragging about them, telling them the good, the bad, and the ugly. That was very important. The ability to relate to everyone. He was as comfortable talking to the heads of state as he was talking to the young private. That's a unique skill, and we all have to work to master that. Most of all, he never forgot where he came from. He went back to his friends, and he wanted to make sure they were all right, and he wanted to show them that he was all right. He was both a soldier and a diplomat. He knew where the dividing line was between being a politician and being a military officer, and he never crossed that line. The answer to this question about whether we're still making his kind or not is, I really don't know. But what I do know is that we need more leaders like General Powell, and that has to be part of our purpose and the legacy that we want to leave. His purpose was to be the best he could be, and he certainly met that. His legacy was that he set the example for all of those who followed him and those that he touched in his remarkable life's journey. John Quincy Adams once said that if your actions inspire others to dream more, to be more, to learn more, to do more, you're a leader. General Colin Powell was a great leader. Frances Hesselbein was an amazing leader. She grew up in Western Pennsylvania. Her ancestors had moved there during the Revolutionary War. She grew up as a young girl there. Some might say that she really doesn't qualify as a veteran, and theoretically they are right. But what I would say is that she is as much a veteran as anyone I know. The military is in her DNA. All the male members of her family served, to include her husband and son, in the military. She was a CEO of the Girl Scouts for 14 years. She was the head of the Drucker Foundation for a period of time. And when Peter Drucker died, it became the Hesselbein Foundation. She now heads up the Leader to Leader Institute. And Frances has co-authored 27 books, including Be No Do, the Army Operating Manual, and translated those into 29 languages. She was the chair of the United States Military Academy class of 1951, Study in Leadership, a program that was endowed by the class, and at age 96, she is still probably the most popular person to head that chair. The cadets loved her. She had the ability to identify with them in a very special way. In 1997, she received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. President Clinton, in giving that to her, said she has shared the recipe for inclusiveness and excellence with countless organizations whose bottom line are not measured in dollars, but in lives changed. Her purpose, which she stated often and she even wrote about, was to serve is to live. at 106 and counting. Her legacy, which was to inspire the people she worked with, is secure. However, I would just say in terms of a couple things about veterans in general, and let me conclude with this. The richness of our country is measured by our values and the commitment and dedication of our people. Veterans, more than any group, exemplify that commitment, dedication, and those values. They are truly a band of brothers, a bond that has been forged through sacrifice and service. But I would also say that we are facing some real challenges in the veterans world. The panel talked about that and talked about some solutions. But we are on a dwindling downward spiral when 0.5% of our population serve in the military. We have to be very careful that we do not lose sight of the fact that the military has to be a reflection of our society. When we made the decision to go from a draft army to a volunteer army at the end of the Vietnam War, that was a tough debate. And the debate really was that we must reflect the society we serve. And if we become a volunteer army, will we become just a military arm of the country and not be a reflection of society? That is something that still troubles me, and I think that we need to look at. There are other trouble signs that were talked about or should be talked about. The suicide rate for veterans is very high. The last I heard, it was 22 per day, and that is way too high. This is not a Department of Veterans Affairs problem. This is not solely a military problem. This is a national problem, and we need to figure out how to do that. The unemployment and versus underemployment issue was discussed by the panel, and I think they did a great job on that. I think that is still an issue. We do have soldiers and military personnel who have jobs, but there's not enough jobs to support the family. I remember as we were drawing down after the Cold War, I had a lunch with Jack Welch, and we talked about hiring veterans. That was when GE was still a big company. And one of the things that we talked about, and Jack Welch was very hard over on that. He says, I love your veterans. He said, you give them more experience than we can possibly give them. They're drug-free. They understand what mission is all about. They're mission-focused, value-based. They're easily trainable. You can depend upon them. They know what the vision is all about, and they know how to work towards that. They are great team members. And I think that's still the case. And I think Jack Welch had it about right. Dan Goldman mentioned it on the panel about the Soldiers for Life program. And I think that is a great program. It's a program that I'm a member of and proud to be a member of. And I think if we can now combine that Soldier for Life with the transition program that Chris Cortez mentioned during the panel, I think we now could have something that really would make sense. And we've got to figure out how we can do this. We almost need a mentoring process as people go through the transition program. There needs to be a mentoring program, and it needs to be handed off to the company that they're going to hire. The companies that are hiring these veterans are getting a great assets. It's a strategic hire as far as I'm concerned. But I think we need to figure out how to hand that off, and the company has to then take them and bring them in. Give them a battle buddy, so to speak, to help them get used to what the company is all about. Help them to work through the issues that are different from what they experienced in the service. I think it's a program that we need to look at and see if we can't really make that work. I also think the idea of sharing best practices, and there were a lot of best practices talked about during the panel. We need to share those with other companies. We need to address this from a national standpoint, but make it very specific at the local level. I would argue that the military personnel that were coming into the civilian world and transitioning into the veterans world, they have served in the VUCA world that we live in. They understand the challenges associated with being volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguity. What they need is a chance to be able to do their job, understand their purpose, and leave a legacy. The richness of our country and the commitment is measured by our values and the commitment and dedication of our people. Veterans, more than any other group, exemplify that commitment, dedication, and those values. They are truly a band of brothers and a band of brothers that have been forged in service and sacrifice. So to all the veterans out there, I say that are listening to us today, thank you for all you have done and continue to do. Your purpose was the oath you took to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. There is no greater calling. And your legacy is that you met the challenges of keeping America safe. There is no greater accomplishment. Well done. God bless you all.
Wow. Thank you, sir. That was fantastic to hear your thoughts on veterans and leadership overall. We really appreciate your time. We had we hope to get some questions from the audience, but due to time, I'm just going to give just one question for you, sir. Since you've worked with so many corporations since your retirement, with many of our Thayer clients like Pratt & Whitney, what's the one thing that you think most corporate executives can learn from the military experience?
Well, I would say, Dan, that my answer to that would be that they could understand that these people are coming to them from a military organization, and they understand the importance of mission. They understand the importance of intent. They understand the importance of sharing good ideas, collaborating. They are driven by mission accomplishment. And yes, they're going to need some technical training in the business that they're going to. But they have the skills that are associated with being value-based and mission-focused. And I think it's important to build upon them. But I also think that it's important to bring them on and make them a part of the team. Marry them up with somebody that can help them understand the company and get them known within the company. And if they do that, they have a great asset, and an asset they're going to benefit from for a long, long time.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Thanks for all you do, and thanks for all you've done for our country. You've had an amazing life, and we appreciate your insights, sir.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you, everybody. Good luck to everybody.
Thank you. And we really appreciate everybody's time and participation today, the panelists, the speakers, and all that you all do for veterans and for our military and their families. It's an honor to be the president of Thayer Leadership, to bring people to West Point, bring West Point leadership to the world. And one of the best things all year I look forward to is this Veterans Day. It's amazing to partner with such an amazing organization as the NASDAQ and with Chief Executive. So thank you for all your time. The strength of our nation is built around our soldiers, our servicemen, and their families. And I'd like to finish with a rendition of God Bless America. Thank you. See you next year.